Whether you've noticed it or not, we're in the middle of the golden age of audio. Millions of voices appear on the internet every second in the forms of music, commercials, and even podcasts. If you don't know what a podcast is, then according to Edison research, you're part of 25% of the United States population that doesn't know either. But hey, there's no shame in that. Even the big name podcasters had to start somewhere too. With podcasting reaching such a massive sphere of influence, multiple platforms for streaming them have sprouted up over the years. But no matter what platform it is, they're held together by a community, by podcasters. These aren't just average people. They're personalities, creators, voices in an entire sea of content, and each and every one of them have their own stories to tell.
But you got to figure this. It's 12 o'clock somewhere. I would like to say that it's over there in one of the other time zones out there. So, in case you didn't realize, welcome to the J-Man Show here on J360 Radio. I'm J.M. Brady, and I am the CEO and leader of J360 Productions. The production company has been around for 10 years, and the radio station part of it has been around for at least 4. I always had a passion for radio. I always like to let people know what's going on, to go ahead and communicate with them. So I was like, let me just go ahead and try this, see if it'll work. Yeah, what's going on, J360 Legion? This is the J-Man Show, of course, hosted by J.M. Brady, a.k.a. J-Man.
J360 Radio is comprised of 5 different shows, and all of them are run just by Jay. The shortest show out of all of these is J360 Minibytes.
Well, the Minibytes show came along because I was like, we need something to get people prepared, get people talking and stuff like that. And then sometimes, with the 24-hour news cycle and everybody talking, and our own version of it, social media, you figure this, okay, we need to go ahead and talk about the talk in town. You got to speak about what's going on, and the best way to get everybody ready is always the Minibytes. So like Tuesday, Minibytes time, J-Man Show in the middle, and then if it's jams will go ahead and end the whole thing. Or if it's Hangouts, which is the next show where I'm working with people in the community, then that's on when jams is around. It didn't matter where you are, as a filmmaker, as a screenwriter or whatever. If you're in the creative field, you have a shot on Hangouts. You're making it uncut, do what you do, and I'll do what I do.
Jay isn't the only podcaster with a Hangout-styled show. One podcast in particular, stationed right in California, is called Pop Prism Power.
That was the one thing is, although we do have an agenda that we put together, we really wanted to keep the conversation as casual as possible, make it just seem like we're having a conversation. It's not scripted. We're both really big fans of a show called Sailor Moon, and as cheesy as it sounds, Sailor Moon has a move where she says, "Moon Prism Power Makeup."
Hop! Moon Prism Power Makeup!
And so we were trying to come up with catchy names for the podcast, and we just started punning off of that and came up with Pop Prism Power.
Yeah, we kind of show each other's world, basically.
Yeah. So that's a big chunk of what we cover. And then in between each podcast, what we've done or consumed pop culture-wise in between each episode. Sometimes we throw in news segments.
Yeah.
Some days are news heavier than others. I mean, with COVID, definitely less heavy on the news.
Bikes sure have become a hot commodity during the pandemic and are now being targeted by thieves.
We didn't set out to just
target certain groups.
Yeah, it was just we're going to talk about this thing and someone's going to listen, someone's going to like it. And overall, it's been really good feedback from almost every demographic, just different parts of the world, different age groups. It's just been very general. It hasn't been just one set group.
With Pop Prism Power having an array of listenership, other podcasts, like J360 Radio's Cyclone series, end up striving for more niche audiences.
So it's called the Cyclone series. And it's usually 2 to 4 people discussing sports. And what's going on in the sports world. It could be primarily football, but most of the time it's looking into other sports, even UFC and wrestling from time to time.
Are obviously extremely entertaining.
Ironically, that sports show came in around the same time that the J-Man show did. And originally it was a gift to other people that were in J360 at the time. And I was like, you guys are so good. You talk so well with each other. And you invested in sports a little bit more than I did. So I was like, let me go ahead and make this show for you.
No, I started the podcast with, one of my best friends, also named Jake. And we're both huge football fans, huge Philadelphia sports fans. But if anybody knows him, this guy is a Philly Eagles nut. I mean, he has an Eagles room that people would consider a museum.
I put this room together. Sounds kind of crazy, but so my nephews will come over here for the game, friends will come over for the game, and it's more or less like having somewhere to go to be able to enjoy the game. When I was a kid, it was we would be in my parents' house. There was a porch. We would all sit. We would like crowd up into this room, and it's the same atmosphere.
And so hit 'em low, hit 'em high. We were kind of going back and forth. We first, since we knew it was going to be two of us, thought, why don't we do like the Going for Two podcast? It's two guys just talking sports, but you look up Going for Two podcasts and there's like 15 football podcasts, all of that. And so we're like, nah, we wanted something unique where if somebody happens to type it in, there's one result. It's hard to tell sitting down, but I'm not the tallest individual. But Jake, he's 6 foot something. And so we were just brainstorming once in the car. And in the Eagles fight song, there's a line where it goes like, hit 'em low, hit 'em high. And it's when anybody in Philly hears that, they know it's the Eagles fight song. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm short, you're tall, it's about the Eagles, why not hit 'em low, hit 'em high? When I said it, he was like, done. Welcome back, everybody, to Hit 'em Low, Hit 'em High, episode number 2.
Let's go! Man, I cannot believe it. We are back for episode number 2. Like you said, I got the mic.
Hey, listen to this. Well, looks like Betty's getting something real interesting over that old crystal set.
I sure am. And I'm going to let you hear it.
This is real. This is Ill Street News.
This is the Ill Street News Podcast.
We used to meet up at his other place, and we weren't recording anything. We would just talk about music the entire, it'd be 6 hours, we'd just talk about music.
Yeah, just sit out back drinking.
And I would just say to myself, we should record this. Because we've been going to shows for so long, we just have the knowledge.
We're throwing knowledge back and forth, yeah.
There wasn't, the only inspiration was that. I was like, maybe we could make something out of this, and we did. I mean, when we started, there was literally 3 other people doing it.
And Tim was a fan of podcasts, so Tim really liked Rogan. And so that kind of, and he was like, we'll just do it about music, and yeah, it just kind of went from there.
Yeah, and that's where the guests come in and all that stuff. Because at first, we weren't even going to interview anybody. And then we were like, people started calling, yo, can I come in and sit with you guys? Yeah, sure, okay. And then it just branched from there, and now it's just, we don't even, it used to be a 3-hour show, and now it's an hour, 20 minutes.
And we were doing radio shows where we would just sit there and play music.
Yeah.
I guess we were promoting the old, what got us into, the music that got us into it at first. And then it was okay, now we got to get, grab these young bands that are active right now.
All right, what up, people? Ill Street News, episode 208.
In a similar way, J360 Radio runs its own music-oriented show called J360 Jams.
Okay, J360 Jams showcases the best of independent musicians across the world. Usually, I use 2 tracks, and I also showcase their link so that you could buy their music, help them grow, become something. They sound great, and I don't know why they don't get record deals. They need somebody to actually help show them and pull them together, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to make this a J-Man show thing. This needs to be its own show. It has to be a lighter based show. It has to be more comedic. It has to be more fun. Let's make Friday night a party night, especially with COVID around. They need something. People need something to believe in.
With the pandemic, it's almost like all media kind of exploded. People are binging Netflix like crazy. They're catching up on shows and movies that they haven't had the opportunity to watch because right now they don't have a whole lot of other things to do.
For me, it's nice having that little bit of extra time to be able to devote towards content creation and all, but I can't wait till I don't have to wear a mask to pick up bananas at the grocery store, and I can't wait till I can, go to concerts again. I never really was a concert guy, but I'm like, well, I want to.
When jams came about, and that was during the peak of the pandemic, people loved it, and it just grew and blossomed into its own. Like one of the artists that I had on jams even told me that because he had such a good time on jams that he's inspired to make more music.
I will listen to podcasts. I've consumed podcasts for a very long time. So it was all these podcasts, like indie shows that I was following that were talking about the same things we talk about now. I thought that the fact that they could do it, it's like, okay, well, that inspires me that I can go ahead and do it. And it was a very scary thing for me because it's different being a guy talking about video games versus a girl talking about video games. So that was always the thing that was stopping me. So it just kind of, it's been building up for a really long time. Finally, I was like, let's do it.
My main influences were Tom Joyner Morning Show,
Anna Faris,
Post America Podcast,
Josh Ennis,
Achievement Junkie,
Black and Blue Radio,
Howard Stern. I just always loved Howard Stern for his cutting edge and what he does.
Dude, I miss Stern back in the '90s when the show was dirty and like you're riding to high school in the morning and you have it on in the car and your parents are like, oh my God, this is terrible. That's what I miss.
All right, you get a point for every right answer, a -1 point for every wrong answer.
How many questions are we going to do?
I don't know. Let's just go with it.
Clearly, the inspiration to create a podcast can come from any avenue. And with a growing number of podcasts showing up every year, it's no wonder that some don't always make the cut.
If you put your mind to it, anybody could have a podcast. The equipment needed to do it is getting less and less costly.
And I think COVID, like when it started, people were like, oh, well, what am I going to do now? And then that's why you've seen like the webcams and all the microphones get sold out.
And now you have people from their living room putting out better quality than like major Hollywood studios just because they have all the toys to do it.
Everybody thinks they can do one. And I don't really think, I mean, yes, they can, but I don't think there's a lot of people who can do it well.
It's like when some people say that they want to do screenwriting. Okay, how are you writing anything? Are you putting anything down? And it doesn't matter if it sucks or not. Are you doing it? But right now, when it's that mic and it's that console, that's you. So that's what you focus on. And anybody can make a podcast, but you gotta love what you do.
I think anybody can and should, if they want to, put out whatever they want.
And I think a lot of people get into it and then they go, wow, this is harder than I thought.
So they only put out a few episodes, or then they string themselves out too far to where their consistency isn't there. And then they kind of give it up. They give up on it themselves almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jake F. Yeah, I mean, like I said, one of my best friends, great guy, still work with him and all. But, father of two, crazy hard worker, married, works a ton of hours. He lives over half an hour away. So it was something that he decided that he wants to take more of like a frequent guest role.
Going there, once a month or maybe once every 6 weeks is more rewarding. I think there's a lot more to talk about as well.
And I'm not the easiest person to work with. I mean, I'll be the first to say it, and I know it, and I've got plenty to work on with. I want it, much like Jake, we both want it to be such the highest product that we could put out there. That there's plenty of times where we're butting heads where we didn't give each other specific enough topics that, okay, you really focus on this, I'll really focus on this.
Let's go over this agenda. Like, of course we'd be like, all right, look, next week, let's talk about this, this, and this. And it was something that I enjoyed, and I still enjoy it, going over and sitting there for an hour and just going over things that have happened in the last couple of weeks or things that might be happening. But when it comes to the birds, I have 100% interest in it, so I'm always gonna have something to talk about.
We both book guests, and then Tim does all the engineering. So he's doing all we meet here, we do the show, but then he's doing more at home on the back end.
I still can't believe how smooth it goes.
All the roadblocks were in the beginning. It was really all like the mental programming in the beginning. That was where all the work was.
Well, you know what? At first, we were releasing bi-weekly, and I would wait till the day of to edit the show, and then I kind of just figured out that the whole procrastination thing was killing me.
I had to do everything because it was our full creative control, and we started our show before even there were these Anchor that will just upload or somewhat edit for you. It was us and turned on the laptop or hit record and like, let's hope for the best. The first 30 episodes are a lot of lessons learned.
Around episode 10, I was like, I'm not going to look at the analytics. I'm not going to waste time wondering about who's looking at this stuff until I get about maybe 3 seasons in, and even then, it'll come.
You're in a room and 30 people, like, talk to you. That's a big deal. So 30 people are subscribers. Hey, that's amazing.
Much like the reason I only have 100 out on my best day, you don't have to listen. You don't got to look at it. You don't have to listen to it. I'm sure there's people that would be dying to have 100 unique listeners, and just how I'm dying to have 200, 1,000. You don't got to listen to it.
We're just Tim and Adam. Like, only our friends know us. So it's going to be this natural thing. People have to find it, be like, I like that, and put that on. They schedule it every week.
But I mean, for J360 Radio, I did just renew the station for 3 more years. So I feel like I'm gonna keep on going with this. I mean, after all, there's so many people that love jams. There's so many people that love the J-Man Show. So those would definitely keep on going. Even the mini bites have managed to get a lot of attention. So it's like, yeah, I can't stop doing that either.
Even when someone's already broken into the world of podcasting, it still takes time and dedication to keep shows running.
You're missing out, even if it's not even that you're into. Like,
do it and don't be afraid, because you might be surprised. You might be accepted by the community and not have to worry about people coming after you.
Yeah. And have fun.
Have fun. Yeah.
Try to focus on what exactly are you gonna do? Because your first season, that's more or less your trial and error season.
Don't expect it to grow right away. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, don't expect instant gratification.
Not gonna happen.
Don't go all out on this unless you really like doing this.
Be consistent, because the moment you're not, that's when you lose everything.
Just setting goals for yourself and striving to always reach them, and then when you reach them, not be content, set higher goals.
Podcasting truly takes dedication. While the means are there for independent creators to immerse themselves into a volatile industry, there's always something to learn from their peers. To run a podcast, you need to be passionate about it. These podcasters have filled their lives with dedication to their shows, and whether they move on towards success is up to them. That's the beauty of podcasting. And while the industry will grow, the voices of these wonderful hosts will remain on the internet forever.
Intervened on